your account. Now, there's a way to protect yourself when this happens. Most of these data breaches happen, and you don't know whether you're part of it. You may never even hear about the breach. The company that got hacked may never announce it, or they may not announce it for months. So you're just flitting along, not aware of anything wrong when your data has been stolen. And the only way you find out is if somebody starts charging things to your account, or opening new accounts, or buying new things. You need to know before all of that happens. You need to know if you have been hacked. And the best protection comes, my friends, from LifeLock. LifeLock's online identity theft protection monitors billions of transactions every day, and they've got room for yours. That's where they spot suspicious activity and report it back to you as a LifeLock member. See, if they see something wrong, they alert you. And then you decide if you need their help. That's with LifeLock's restoration team at the ready. I mean, they've got people that do nothing but work on your breach, your hack, until it is fixed. It's personalized service you're not going to find at any other place. They assist you in stopping the activity and restoring your good name. Now, no one company can prevent all identity theft, but LifeLock's online theft protection is second to no one. Get LifeLock's protection today. LifeLock.com's the website. Use my name when you sign up. Save 25% off. That's LifeLock.com. My first name is your offer code. Here is Jesse in Cleveland. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
I am so thrilled to be speaking with you, Rush. I've been...
No courage. Who will articulate, the famous words, "We've never done it that way before." Who can give you 10 reasons why you can't do anything you propose to do. They have no sense of adventure. They hate change. They love tradition. They fear the unknown. They want no risk. They worry about everything. All the issues of life are far more than they can bear. They're usually sad, always worried, sometimes in despair, often depressed, discouraged and defeated. They carry none of the zeal, the joy, the thrill, the exuberance that adventure brings. We could probably identify a third group. We could call them the weak. The weak. They're just spiritually and morally weak. Christians who, because of their weak faith, because of the weak disciplines of their life, are susceptible to sin, and they fall into the same sins over and over, and you barely get them up and dust them off, and they're back in the same hole again. They find it very hard to do God's will consistently. They embarrass themselves, they embarrass the church, they embarrass the Lord. They take an awful lot of attention. They test how good a church is at church discipline and usually run you all the way to at least step 2. If we were to identify a fourth group, we could call them the wearisome. The wearisome. Another word for that would be frustrating, but it doesn't start with W. These are the wearisome, the foot draggers. They're in line, but they're just going at the wrong speed. They never catch up. You keep teaching them, you keep training them, you keep discipling them, and you pour all of this energy into them, and every time you look around to see how close they might be, they look like they're farther away. Everything distracts them. They have a great difficulty concentrating, great difficulty focusing. They're just very exasperable because you make the maximum effort and you get the minimum return. They don't move and grow at the pace that would be considered normal. Finally, group 5 would be the outright wicked. The wicked. They do evil. Christians who do evil. They commit sins against other Christians right in the church. They break up marriages. They defile daughters. They steal. They gossip. They slander. They falsely accuse. They're just wicked. Now you understand that as the church endeavors to grow, it's got to deal with these 5 groups: the wayward, the worried, the weak, the wearisome, and the wicked. And no wonder growing a healthy flock is such a challenging enterprise, because all these folks need healing spiritually. The wayward need to get back in line. The worried need to have a stronger courage and faith and boldness, confidence. The weak need to be more disciplined in the matter of holy living, and the wearisome need to get up to speed, and the wicked need to do righteously. There's a lot of work to do. Bring all these in line. Now, with all that's being said and all that's being written about church growth, all the sophisticated data, all the homogeneity principles, all the cultural demographics, all the subtle strategies, all the entertainment methods, all the advertising technique that are supposed to be the keys to building the church and growing the church, precious little is being said about how to grow a healthy flock spiritually into Christ-likeness by eliminating these problems. The Bible never says anything about homogeneity. The Bible never says anything about cultural demographics. The Bible never says anything about subtle strategies. The Bible never says anything about entertainment methodology. The Bible never says anything about advertising technique, but it does say if you want to grow a church, you need to get the impediments out of the way. You need to deal with whatever's retarding that church's growth. And then when it gets pure and it gets holy, it'll get moving and it'll know the power of God, and it'll make a massive impact on its culture. The Apostle Paul understood this. And if you turn to the Apostle Paul to learn the principles of church growth, first of all, what you want to find out is what is his goal? What's he after? What does he want the church to become? Bigger? Wealthier? More popular? More accepted in the community? Boy, pretty clear in his mind what church growth meant to him. He was after deepening, strengthening of the lives of believers, knowing full well that as you eliminate the impediment presented by the folks that are retarding the church begins to move in power. So Paul put his major energy, his resources, his prayer, and his passion into growing a healthy spiritual flock by transforming the wayward, the worried, the weak, the wearisome, and the wicked into the righteous and powerful and effective. Healthy flock is a beloved flock. Paul loved these people dearly, couldn't resist them. But that is not to say that they didn't have any problems. They did. And if you look at our text, verses 14 and 15, you will meet the problem people. Verse 14, and we urge you, brethren, admonish the unruly, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with all men, see that no one repays another with evil for evil, but always seek after that which is good for one another and for all men. That's a marvelous, marvelous duet of verses. Because even though the church at Thessalonica was flourishing and growing, they had problems. And whatever they weren't was a result of those problem people. Paul said in 2 Corinthians 11:28, it's the care of all the churches that is the biggest burden of the ministry. It transcends any physical pain I have endured, he says. On top of all of the pain, the whips, the rods that have bashed my body, is this concern for the churches. Colossians 2:1, I want you to know how great a struggle I have on your behalf. To put it in the vernacular, you are a big pain to me. This is a burden to me, carrying around on my back all the churches that need to grow. Now, in these 2 verses, as he defines these 5 groups, he also tells us how to deal with them. Verses 12 and 13, which we've already studied, talked about the relation of the shepherds to the sheep and the relation of the sheep to the shepherds. Verses 16 and following talk about the relation of the sheep to the great shepherd, and our text talks about the relationship of the sheep to the sheep. So this little section covers it all. In verses 12 and 13, he talked to the shepherds as to how they were to treat the sheep, and he told the shepherds, labor among the sheep, take authority over the sheep, and instruct the sheep. He told the sheep how to treat the shepherds. He said to the sheep, appreciate the shepherds, esteem the shepherds, and submit to the shepherds. Starting in verse 16, he's going to tell the sheep how to relate to the great shepherd. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks, don't quench the spirit, and so forth. But right now, he's talking to the sheep about how to deal with the sheep. The key word then in verse 14 is the word brethren. While certainly there is a responsibility on the part of the shepherds to exercise unique authority in confronting these 5 groups of troublesome Christians, the lines between the shepherd and the sheep in this regard are very fluid. He uses the word brethren, and just to give you a comparative note, verse 12, we request of you, brethren, that you appreciate those who diligently labor among you, have charge over you in the Lord, and give you instruction. Appreciate your shepherds. So brethren in verse 12 is directed at the congregation. We assume, therefore, that brethren in verse 14 is also directed at the congregation. He's talking to the sheep about how they deal with the other sheep. It does not exempt those of us in leadership, but it includes everybody. And by the way, you note also Romans 12, 14 to 17 is a very close parallel to this text, and it obviously is directed at the whole congregation. He also notes that there's an urgency. We urge you. Uses that familiar Greek verb parakaleo to come alongside someone and help them. It has a tone of urgency in it. So he is urgently, zealously, eagerly encouraging the sheep to get involved in helping the sheep that need the help. You see, church is not showing up on Sunday morning patting yourself on the back about how deeply religious you are. Being truly involved in the church goes far beyond the audience mentality and attendance. It gets all the way down into involving yourselves with these 5 groups of people that are retarding the development of the church